The woods had never been quiet for Lily Holloway, not since the night the silence had swallowed her father's last breath. But what happened in those trees today was something no one in Alder Ridge would ever forget. When a scream tore through the pine-lined trail, it wasn't a person who answered, it was a dog. Scarred, lean, and burning with purpose. And when the townspeople came running toward the sound, they found a German shepherd standing over the trembling body of a little girl, and a man who would never hurt anyone again. They didn't know where the dog came from, but Lily did. Somewhere in her shattered heart, she already knew. And if you believe that not all angels have wings, tell us where you're watching from in the comments, and stay with us. Lily Holloway didn't speak much anymore. Not since her father's funeral. The small town of Alder Ridge had tried everything: school counselors, drawing classes, even a weekly healing circle at the library, but nothing pierced the silence the way her father's voice once had. At 9 years old, Lily had learned how to vanish in plain sight. A ghost with pigtails and quiet shoes. It was a gray October afternoon when she slipped out the back gate of her home and into the woods behind the Holloway property. She always walked the same path, an old trail lined with pine needles and broken branches. Her mother, Elise, had forbidden it. But grief doesn't follow rules, and Lily needed somewhere the memories couldn't reach her. She walked deeper than she usually dared. Past the split oak, past the stream, past the place where cell signal vanished completely. The wind whispered through the trees like it was trying to warn her. But Lily didn't hear it. She didn't hear the man either, not until he stepped onto the trail behind her. He was tall, pale, dressed in denim with a baseball cap pulled low. She didn't recognize him, but the way he looked at her made her chest tighten. He didn't say a word at first, just smiled. "You lost?" he asked finally. Lily froze. Her small fingers clenched the strap of her backpack. "My mom's waiting," she said quickly, voice trembling. The man took a step forward. "I can walk you back." "No," she whispered, and she turned to run. He lunged. The scream that tore from Lily's throat sliced through the stillness like shattered glass. Birds scattered, trees shook, and the man grabbed her wrist, hard. She kicked, thrashed, bit her small voice, now a panicked sob. But then it stopped. The sound, the birds, even the wind. And then came a new sound, low, guttural, primal. A growl. It rose like a storm from the underbrush. Then, in a flash of motion and muscle, the dog exploded from the trees. A German shepherd, black and tan, ribs visible, a thick scar curling down the side of his face like lightning frozen in flesh. His teeth bared. He hit the man with all the weight of rage wrapped in fur. The man went down hard, screaming. The shepherd didn't stop. Lily scrambled back, eyes wide. She expected fear. Instead, she felt safe. The dog pinned the man, jaws inches from his throat, not biting. Not yet. Just holding. Warning. Lily watched, barely breathing, as the stranger whimpered. Then the shepherd turned slowly, carefully, and looked at her. Those eyes, wounded, fierce, familiar in a way that made no sense at all. He took a step toward her. Lily didn't flinch. Her hand extended on instinct, fingers trembling. "Hi," she whispered. The dog stopped. Ears forward, still. And then slowly, he moved closer. When Elise Holloway finally found her daughter 30 minutes later, racing down the trail with Sheriff Nolan Hughes beside her, she collapsed in the dirt. Because there, in the clearing, was her little girl covered in mud, clutching the neck of a massive, scarred shepherd. And nearby, bruised and bleeding, a man lay zip-tied with his own belt. Sheriff Hughes blinked. Where'd the dog come from?" Lily didn't speak, but the shepherd stood and placed himself between her and the world. Sheriff Nolan Hughes had seen a lot of strange things in his 22 years wearing the badge in Alder Ridge, but nothing quite like the sight of that German shepherd standing protectively over Lily Holloway. It wasn't just the dog's size or the brutal scar slicing across his face. It was the way he stared back at Nolan, unblinking, like he was evaluating him, judging him, the man on the ground. Handcuffed with his own belt, groaned again, face swollen where the dog had struck. Nolan motioned to his deputy to take him in. The guy was a known drifter, records of trespassing, public intoxication, and 2 sealed charges out of Nevada. But nothing had ever escalated like this. The report would say, attempted abduction. But that wouldn't explain the part about the dog. Did this shepherd track her? Deputy Fields whispered. Or was he just here? Nolan didn't answer. He knelt next to Lily, who still hadn't spoken. Her eyes were locked on the dog. Elise, Nolan said gently, can I? But Lily's mother shook her head. Let her be. He's the only thing she's let near her since it happened. It? He asked, already knowing the answer. Elise swallowed hard. Since Daniel died, Nolan remembered the night of the accident. Her husband had been a firefighter, well-known and well-loved. His loss shattered the family, especially Lily. And now this dog, this animal nobody could place, had thrown himself between her and danger, like he was born to protect her. They brought the shepherd back to town in the sheriff's SUV. He wouldn't leave Lily's side, even when the medics tried to treat her. Elise rode with her daughter. Nolan sat in the front seat, glancing in the rearview mirror every few seconds at the massive dog curled beside the girl. Someone trained you, he muttered under his breath. Back at the station, the attacker was processed and booked. Nolan reviewed body cam footage. What he saw confirmed what he already feared: precision, discipline, restraint. The shepherd had disabled the man quickly, effectively, and without killing him. This wasn't luck. This was training. But no local canine unit had a dog with a scar like that. No tags. No chip. Have Doc Bailey scan him again, Nolan told the vet tech. Check for military chips too. Deep implants. The scan returned nothing. But that night, after the office closed, Nolan sat alone in the evidence room, flipping through old case files. He wasn't sure what he was looking for until he found it. A report 3 years old. Subject: K9 Juno Handler, SGT. Tyler Shaw, U.S. Army Special Forces status. MIA Operation Silent Storm, Afghanistan notes. Highly classified mission. Dog presumed dead. Experimental training confirmed. Bond-linked behavior documented. Nolan's hand froze on the paper. Juno. He looked again at the photograph in the file. Same black and tan fur, same wide chest. Same scar, though fresher in the image. The dog that saved Lily wasn't just trained. He was a ghost from a war nobody talked about anymore. The next morning, Elise stood in her kitchen, watching Lily pour cereal for the first time in months. The girl was humming softly, one hand resting absent-mindedly on the shepherd's back. Juno, Lily said suddenly. Elise turned. What? That's his name. I heard it last night in my dream. Juno. The dog looked up. And wagged his tail. Sheriff Nolan Hughes didn't sleep much after reading the file. The photo of Juno stayed burned behind his eyes, along with the words bond-linked behavior and experimental training. It felt like something out of a sci-fi thriller, not an official Department of Defense document. But the timing, the scar, and the behavior, it all lined up too perfectly. At dawn, he made the call. The line was secure. The voice that answered was clipped and cautious. Calder Reeve. It said. Nolan introduced himself and explained the incident in calm, direct detail. He left out nothing: the girl, the attacker, the dog's calculated response, and the fact that the dog had no chip, no tags, but seemed to operate with military-level precision. There was silence on the other end of the line. Did the girl say his name? Nolan hesitated. She called him Juno. Another pause. Then Calder's voice changed. Where is he now? Resting, with the girl. He won't leave her side. You need to keep them both safe, Calder said firmly. Do not post photos. Do not involve state agencies. I'll be there by nightfall. The line went dead at the Holloway house. Juno lay curled on the floor beside Lily's bed. Elise peeked in the doorway and stopped just for a moment. The early sunlight painted soft shadows across the floor, and Lily's small hand rested gently on the dog's scarred head. Did Daddy send him? Lily had asked the night before. Elise didn't know how to answer that. Maybe grief had opened some invisible door. Maybe fate still moved in the world. She just knew her daughter smiled again, for the first time in nearly a year. Later that morning, Lily and Juno sat together in the backyard. The girl traced her fingers along the dog's back, brushing dirt from his coat. Each time her hand hovered near the scar on his face, Juno flinched barely. But he stayed still. I think he forgets he's safe now, she whispered. Sheriff Hughes waited outside the station as a black SUV with government plates pulled into the lot. The man who stepped out was tall, lean, with sharp eyes that didn't blink too often. He wore civilian clothes, but the stiffness in his shoulders betrayed his training. Reeve? Nolan asked. The man nodded once. They went inside. Calder laid the classified file flat on Nolan's desk and opened it. Inside was a mission brief marked with redacted lines and a blurred photo of SGT Tyler Shaw, a young soldier with a square jaw and soft eyes. Beside him sat Juno, younger, ears upright, lean muscle perfectly coiled. They were part of Project Echo, Reeve said. A limited military program designed to test neural-paired loyalty. Neural-paired? Think. Intuitive connection. K9 South trained to operate independently, even across continents, if the bond was strong enough. And this worked? Reeve's jaw tightened. Too well. He turned the page. Tyler Shaw was declared EMEA during a recon op 3 years ago. Juno went missing at the same time. They thought the dog died in a mountain collapse. We never recovered either, and now he's here, Nolan said. Saving little girls in the forest. Reeve nodded. It means one thing: Juno's operating on a residual bond, but not with his original handler. Nolan frowned. You're saying he's bonded to Lily? Not exactly. I'm saying he chose her. And that's never happened before. Back at the Holloway house, Juno stood suddenly. He walked to the window, stiff posture, ears turning slightly. Lily watched him. Then came the sound of tires. And voices. Not Calder, Reeve, not Nolan. Men in gray tactical gear stepped out of 2 unmarked SUVs at the end of the driveway. They moved like operators, silent, fast, and with purpose. One carried a tranquilizer rifle. Juno growled low and deep. Lily felt it in her chest. Mom, she whispered, backing away from the window. What's wrong? They're here for him. Elise's eyes widened. Who? Juno, Lily said. They want to take him back. The dog moved in front of her, like a wall of muscle and memory. The scar across his face caught the light, and Elise knew. It didn't matter where he came from. He wasn't going anywhere without a fight. Juno's growl deepened, reverberating through the floor like distant thunder. Elise froze where she stood, torn between maternal fear and primal instinct. The same instinct that told her whatever was outside that door wasn't here to help. Lily stayed behind Juno, her hand pressed against his flank, her tiny fingers trembling but steady. Outside, the sound of boots moved closer. Gravel shifted. Then a voice through a megaphone. Step away from the animal. This is a containment operation. The dog is classified property under federal jurisdiction. Property? Elise's stomach turned. She looked down at the dog, at his scarred face and watchful eyes. Juno wasn't property. He was breathing, bleeding proof of something purer, something braver than any of the men coming for him. Inside the sheriff's cruiser parked nearby, Calder Reeve's cum crackled. He swore under his breath. They weren't supposed to move. Without authorization, Nolan's hand moved to his sidearm. Who the hell are they? Reeve didn't answer. His eyes stayed locked on the Holloway house. "I need you to trust me, and keep that door shut." Inside, Lily clutched Juno's ear gently. "Don't go," she whispered. "Don't let them take you." The shepherd shifted slightly, looking back at her. There was understanding in his gaze. Not obedience. Not training, something deeper. The front door rattled as one of the operators tested the lock. Juno lunged at it with a sudden bark so loud and sharp it rattled the windows. Elise gasped, stepping between Lily and the door. Then a flashbang detonated. Outside, the flash was blinding. The bang shook the porch. Juno reacted instantly. He spun to cover Lily with his body, pressing her down behind the couch. Elise shouted, pulling a blanket over her daughter's head. The door burst open. 2 men in gray stepped through with visors and tranquilizer rifles raised slow. Professional, heartless. But before either could aim, a blur of black and tan muscle. Launched from the shadows. Juno hit the first man with a savage roar, knocking him sideways into a table that shattered beneath the weight. The second tried to fire, but Elise's wild grabbed a lamp and swung it hard into the side of his head. He dropped with a groan. The shepherd stood over them, chest heaving, snarling, saliva dripping from his bared teeth. And yet he didn't. Kill, he could have. But he didn't single quotes d, that he was controlled, purposeful, not a savage. Outside, Reeve moved in with Sheriff Hughes flanking him. The other agents had frozen mid-step, uncertain how to respond. "Stand down," Reeve shouted. One agent raised a tablet. "Sir, our directive. You're operating under a revoked chain of command. This mission was declassified an hour ago." "That's not what our orders say." Reeve stepped forward, eyes blazing. "You want to test me? Go ahead. But I promise you, if that dog gets hurt, I will burn your department to the ground and personally watch your pension turn to ash." There was a pause. The leader lowered his weapon. "Stand down," he repeated to his team. Slowly, reluctantly, they stepped back. Back inside. Lily cried into Juno's fur. The shepherd licked her cheek once, then rested his head in her lap. Elise looked to the doorway where Reeve and Nolan now stood. "I want answers," she said, voice cracking. Reeve nodded. "You'll get them, but right now he needs to rest. And so do you." Nolan stepped forward, eyes on Juno. He could have torn them apart. Reeve's voice was quiet, but he didn't. He turned his eyes to Lily, who hadn't let go of the dog once. "That's why he's different." The Holloway house was quiet after the agents left, but no one slept. Not Lily, not Elise, not Juno, and certainly not Calder Reeve, who sat at the kitchen table with a mug of untouched coffee, a thick envelope marked Project Echo, eyes only, laid open before him. Elise sat across from him, her arms wrapped tightly around herself. Lily was upstairs with Juno. The dog curled beside her in a way that reminded Elise of how her husband used to sleep on the edge of the bed, guarding, always alert, never fully at ease. "You said he was part of something," Elise murmured. "Something dangerous," Reeve nodded. Project Echo was an off-book defense program. 10 K9 South, hand-selected from elite military units. Each was paired with a handler using neural conditioning and trauma bonding designed to create what we call a living algorithm. She frowned. "A what?" "A dog who could think, act, and protect without command. Whose bond to their handler was so strong, it could override fear, pain, even distance. Like love," Elise said softly. Reeve's gaze flicked up. "Exactly like love." He turned the file, revealing a photo of a younger Juno beside. A soldier in desert fatigues, Tyler Shaw. His eyes were soft, boyish, not a killer, not a ghost. They were the strongest pair we ever recorded. Tyler saved Juno from a burning compound when the dog was just a pup. From that moment on, they were inseparable. Elise stared at the image. What happened to him? Mission went sideways. Shaw's unit was ambushed in the mountains of Noristan. He was listed Mia, presumed dead. We thought Juno died too." Her voice cracked, but he didn't. "No," Reeve said. "He survived. Somehow, and for 3 years, nothing. Until now." He pushed another paper toward her, a neural pairing. Scan fuzzy but clear. Juno's bond was severed. But the moment he protected Lily, something re-engaged. A new connection. Impossible by our science, but real nonetheless. "You're saying Lily replaced his handler?" "No, I'm saying she didn't replace anything. She unlocked something dormant. Something pure. He's not following training anymore. He's following her." Upstairs, Lily lay in bed with her head resting gently on Juno's back. Her small fingers absently traced the curve of his scar. His breathing was deep and steady, but his ears twitched at every creak in the floor, every gust of wind against the glass. She whispered, "You came back, didn't you?" Juno didn't move, but he let out a quiet huff of breath like he understood. "I think you were looking for someone," she continued. "And maybe I was too." Downstairs, Reeve stood from the table and walked toward the front door. Nolan met him on the porch. "She's just a little girl," Nolan said. "Why her?" Reeve didn't answer right away. He looked out toward the forest, now calm and dark. Project Echo was about control, but Juno's bond with Lily, that's choice. "You're afraid the government will come for him again?" "They won't stop," Reeve said flatly. "Not while they still think he's an asset." "He's not an asset," Nolan growled. "He's a soldier." Reeve looked back through the window to where Lily stood in the living room, rubbing sleep from her eyes, Juno's massive frame beside her like a living shadow. "No," he said. "He's something more." It happened on a Tuesday. The kind of crisp, cloudless day that made Alder Ridge look like a postcard. Children rode bikes down sidewalks. Wind rustled the leaves. The air smelled like pine and old wood smoke. And for the first time in months, Lily Holloway felt almost normal. She was walking Juno through the town square, her small hand wrapped tightly around his leash. Though really, the leash was just for show. Juno didn't need it. He never wandered, never tugged. He stayed precisely at her side, as if tethered to her heartbeat instead of the rope. People stared. They always did. Not just because the dog was enormous, or because of the scar slicing across his face like a memory that refused to fade, but because of the way he looked at her, like she was the center of his universe, like she was the mission. At the coffee shop, Nolan met them with 2 hot chocolates and a soft smile. "You're getting faster," he said. Lily grinned shyly and sat on the bench. Juno lay beside her with his head resting against her leg. "You?" "No," Nolan added. "He won't even let the mayor near you. He just doesn't trust people with shiny buttons," Lily said, sipping carefully. They both laughed. But Reeve wasn't laughing. He stood a few feet away, leaning against a lamppost, scanning the rooftops and alleys. Always watching. Always waiting. At 2:14 p.m., a black van pulled into the square. At 2:15 p.m., Reeve's phone buzzed. Private channel. Signal spike detected. Unregistered ping at GPS marker. Possible agency intercept. Status. Moving. At 2:16 p.m., a man stepped out of the van. He wore a postal jacket, sunglasses, smiled too easily. Reeve didn't wait. He crossed the square in 5 strides, stepping between the man and Lily. "Can I help you?" The man smiled wider. "Just delivering a package." Reeve's hand moved to his belt. "Try again." The man's smile faded, and then all hell broke loose. 2 more figures emerged from the van dressed as civilians, but moving like trained ghosts. One lifted a concealed rifle. The other raised a tranquilizer pistol. Juno reacted before any of them. He launched forward with a roar that shook the entire square. The man with the rifle never got the safety. Off. Juno hit him like a missile, snapping teeth. Explosive power. A blur of tan muscle and scarred fury. Lily screamed, frozen. Nolan pulled her back just as a tranquilizer dart whizzed past her shoulder and thudded into the coffee shop's wood beam. Reeve drew his weapon. "You are violating federal protocol," he shouted, ducking low and firing a warning shot. The agents hesitated. That was their mistake. Juno didn't. He took down the second man like a machine, calculated, fast, non-lethal. Blood ran from a bitten shoulder. But the shepherd stopped just short of killing. Again. Controlled. Just enough. After the attackers were restrained, Reeve stood over the one who had claimed to be a courier. "Who sent you?" he asked coldly. The man spat blood. "You think this ends here?" he hissed. "You can't keep a ghost. Sooner or later, everyone wants him back." Reeve's eyes darkened. "He doesn't belong to anyone anymore." Back at the Holloway house, Elise wrapped Lily in a blanket and rocked her gently. "I don't want him to leave," Lily whispered. "He won't," Elise promised. "Not as long as you need him." Upstairs, Juno sat in front of the window, watching the woods. He didn't sleep, didn't move, but his ears twitched with every passing car. Every crack in the trees. He knew they would come again. But he wasn't afraid. Because now he had something they could never take from him, a family. That night, Calder Reeve sat alone in the sheriff's office, the walls dimly lit by a single desk lamp and the soft hum of a security monitor flickering behind him. He held a folder in his hands, fingers trembling not from fear, but from the weight of what he was about to do. Inside the folder was a code, one that bypassed every firewall he had ever helped build. He typed it in. The screen blinked once. Then came the classified archive. Echo. Final transmission. Tyler Shaw. Reeve swallowed hard as the video loaded. A grainy feed filled the screen. Shaw's face appeared, bloodied and dust-covered, eyes sunken but defiant. Behind him, explosions echoed faintly, distant but coming closer. "If anyone finds this, I'm not asking to be rescued. I'm asking you to find him. Find Juno. He got out. I made sure he got out. I don't know where he'll go, but he'll know what to do. He always did." Tyler's voice cracked, then steadied. "Don't treat him like a weapon. Treat him like what he is. A soul, a protector." The feed cut to static. Reeve exhaled slowly, closing his eyes. Everything made sense now. The bond, the return. The scarred dog who had vanished into the forest for 3 years and reemerged only when a little girl needed saving. Tyler hadn't died looking for escape. He died ensuring Juno had a second chance. Back at the Holloway home, Juno lay on the porch, head raised, eyes locked on the trees beyond the fence. Elise stepped outside with a cup of tea and sat beside him on the steps. "You waiting for something?" she asked softly. The dog didn't look at her, but his ears twitched. "I know that look," she said. "My husband used to watch the fire like that. Like he wasn't looking at flames but memories." She reached out and gently touched the scar along his cheek. "I think you lost someone too," she whispered. Juno blinked, and for just a moment his body sagged, not in weakness, but in something closer to relief. Meanwhile, Reeve met Nolan at the edge of the forest, where the agent's van had been towed and the last traces of the attack cleared away. "I'm going dark," Reeve said. Nolan raised an eyebrow. "You're serious?" "I've deleted every file, burned every link. As far as the system's concerned, Project Echo doesn't exist. And neither does Juno." Nolan crossed his arms. "You sure you want to do that? Your job, your clearance." "He's not a threat," Reeve said. "He's a miracle." He paused. "And we don't own miracles." Nolan nodded slowly. "So, what now?" Reeve looked toward the Holloway house, where warm light spilled from the windows and Lily's laughter carried softly into the trees. "Now," he said, "we let him live." That night, Lily had a dream. She stood in a vast desert, wind blowing across scorched sand. Ahead of her was a figure tall, in uniform, Face soft and kind. Juno stood beside him. The man knelt down and placed his hand on the dog's head. "She's yours now," he said. And then he vanished into the light. Lily woke up crying, but not from sadness. From something deeper. Closure. Spring came to Alder. Ridge in slow breaths. The snow melted from the pines. Birds returned to the edges of rooftops. And the town square began to hum with life again. But for the Holloways, it wasn't just the weather that changed. It was everything. Lily now spoke freely in class, laughed with her mother, slept without nightmares. And every day after school, she'd race through the yard and into the woods with Juno right beside her. His ears perked, his gait steady despite the limp that occasionally caught in his back leg. Some people called the dog a miracle. Others whispered about the classified K9, who had once belonged to a soldier that never came home. But Lily never used those words. To her, he was just Juno, not a ghost, not a weapon. Family. On the first Sunday of April, the town held a quiet ceremony at the edge of Holloway Park. Sheriff Nolan spoke briefly. Reeve stood at the back, unnoticed, hands in his coat pockets, listening. And then Lily stepped forward to the new plaque mounted beneath the oak tree she and her dad used to sit under. It read, "In honor of Tyler Shaw and Juno, protectors, guardians, and souls that never gave up." Lily laid a small bouquet at its base. Then she looked up at the sky. "I hope you know," she whispered. "He kept his promise." That night, Elise found an envelope taped to their front door. Inside, a flash drive and a handwritten note in careful block letters. For Lily, from someone who once loved Juno too. The video opened on a younger Tyler Shaw, laughing, tossing a ball across a dusty yard. Juno, a smaller, unscarred version of himself, darted after it, tongue out, eyes blazing with joy. "If you're watching this," Tyler said in the video, sitting on the porch steps, "then my boy found his way home. And I guess, so did I. He's not just a soldier, he's a heart. Treat him well. He's braver than anyone I ever served with." Elise reached out and wiped tears from Lily's cheeks. But the girl was smiling. "He did come home," Lily whispered. "Just not in the way people expected." A week later, Reeve quietly transferred to a civilian post in Montana. Before leaving, he stopped by the Holloway home one last time. Juno met him at the driveway, tail still, eyes measuring. Reeve knelt. "You did good, soldier," he murmured, rubbing the dog's chest. Juno licked his hand once, then turned and trotted back toward the porch. Lily waved from the swing. Reeve smiled. As summer settled in, the town forgot the agents, the van, the danger. But they never forgot the sight of that dog, scarred, proud, always at Lily's side like a sentinel from another world. They called him many things: protector, guardian, hero, but only Lily knew the truth. He was the echo of something lost. And the proof that love, real, unconditional love, could cross deserts, years, and death itself, all wrapped in fur and memory. And carried forward by a shepherd's legacy.